Olivia, I bet you never knew that this group is called the Faith Fun Bunch. We like to have a lot of fun in this group.
Good afternoon and welcome to Interfaith Insights, to the programme that shows how faith can motivate people in all walks of life to make positive changes in the world. And remember to follow and like our Facebook page at Edinburgh Interfaith Association at eifa.page. Follow us on Twitter at IFA at Edinburgh Interfaith. And remember to subscribe to our Edinburgh Interfaith Association YouTube channel, where you can watch more extended interviews and previous episodes. You can also learn more about our work at www.edinburghinterfaith.com. As ever, I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Nasim and Joe, and today we have a great show lined up for you, which I'm sure you will love, with some unbelievable celebrity interviews and human interest stories. Now, we've all been indebted to incredible NHS staff who every day put their lives on the line in the fight against COVID-19. And today Nasim is joined by Neimah, a nurse who will give us an insight into what life is like serving as a nurse at this time. Nasim will also share with us an update from her Ramadan diaries, what life is like just now, observing Ramadan. And we have a beautiful story to tell us about interfaith friendship from across the waters. So over to you, Nasim.
Hi Iain. Hello everybody. Thanks very much for joining, and I hope this show, as we, we had a chat about last week's show. Everybody really enjoyed presenting the show, doing the show, and having guests on. And I hope today will be an equally exciting and interesting show for everybody. So just to remind everybody, so my name is Nasim Azad, and it's great to be part of Interfaith Insights. So Iain talked about Ramadan, which is obviously, across the world, people are celebrating Ramadan, fasting, extra prayers, all that kind of idea. So in terms of what I wanted to do today was I recorded a video of me and my very small family opening our fast yesterday. So I'm just going to let Carrie play that now.
Was it opened?
Yeah. Hiya. So today I thought like you have a wee bit of an insight. Oh, do that look at it. Where's the cream? The cream's missing. So we're having, what we open the fast with is a date, and we like to put walnuts in there, and also that cream.
So,
What do you call it? At the side, there we go. Yeah. It's good to have a balanced diet. So there's a nutritious date, nutritious nuts, and dairy for the, oh God, what's it not coming out? That's gonna go on my face.
I don't know how to do it.
Oh, okay, it's gone all over the place. And the cream for the dairy products.
I like fresh cream.
You like the fresh cream? Oops.
Too much. Alhamdulillah, very nice. Where's the pakora?
Oh, God, we're a mess today. Hold on.
You must need pakora for iftar.
Yeah, we must have pakora for iftar, that's right. Got cream all over my plate. Can you zoom in on the
Dua.
the dua for opening the fast? So, what we usually do is we open our fast, read the dua. We usually have everything prepared, but the cream was a bit late and we couldn't get it working. And so traditionally what we as a family like to have is the pink stuff, pakoras, fresh fruit, salad, and then we go and read namaz, read our prayers, and then we come back and have our food. If we eat now, it'll be very difficult. If we have our full meal now, it will be very difficult for us to get up and read namaz. So we'll have a taste of a pakora, and then we'll go and read our namaz. So this morning we kept our fast at, was it, what's it, 3:40, quarter to 3?
41.
3:41.
341.
3:41, yeah. And we're now eating at 9:17 p.m. And you know what? It's a lot of people ask, oh, how do you cope? How do you cope? But when you put your mind to something, when you dedicate, you know, when you're focused and you're dedicated to something. And for me, obviously, my faith is my, you know, biggest dedication. Nothing's too difficult. There's people out there that are working, you know, for example, people that train for the Olympics. You know, you wonder how they manage, but you know, it's because they're dedicated. And it's that exact same concept for me in terms of, and obviously it's my faith, so I get that kind of drive because I know that I'm doing something right. And obviously, it's only one month out of the 12 months out of the year, and it's time for reflection, time for you to kind of detox and cleanse and let your body have a bit of a rest, eating healthy, although I'm having pakoras, which have all been fried. But you know, we don't have pakoras every day, but thought we'd make a specialty. Should we just go and read the namaz then?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay then. Actually, the reason I want talking about the prayers is because just prior to, when was the first Ramadan? 24th of April? 23rd of April?
23rd.
3rd of April. And that night we actually inaugurated we made a special Ramadan room, which I've read dead chapter about. So we'll just go there. We'll just meet you there. So, believe it or not, so come in. Gosh is just setting up the prayer mat. So, come in so you can get a good view. I love the bookshelves. Probably my best part of this room. All my books that are very, very dear to me, my Islamic books, my books from my young days. My young days, one of the things I used to love reading was, where have they gone? I used to love reading Alfred Hitchcock, The Three Investigators, and I've got some of they're my favourite books, I've got those there. And so this was actually once an old kitchen, and so Gashi's put the prayer mats that way because that's the way Kaaba is, the Makkah is. And please don't pay attention to these gaping holes. That's because of this COVID-19. We're not able to get workmen in to come in and cover up all this electrical stuff, so that just please ignore that. That's the only thing that's outstanding. Everything else is done and dusted. And this, as I say, was a kitchen, and this is where the boiler is. And so it was too difficult to move the boiler, so Gashi just built a wee cabinet around it. So that is us, and we're just going to start our prayers now. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala-salah, hayya ala-falah. Qad qamat as-salah, qad qamat as-salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar.
No, I'll tell you what it is. It's my sister Rabila. She's the one who brought it into the family, and everybody now has, you know, it's a cream. I'm
gonna have to go and buy some tomorrow to try it because it looks really tasty.
It's delicious, by the way, and it's completely nutritious, completely balanced. You know, the dates, the nuts, and the cream. You know, you have to incorporate everything because you know you've been starving for about 19 hours, so you need to kind of hit good nutritional food, and I believe that's the best nutritional food. You know, it's sunnah to eat dates, which means that
indeed.
It looked like a lot of cream, I have to say.
Iain, that wasn't me. That blooming thing, the nozzle was stuck, and my husband's trying to, I mean, you know, he's shaking away, and then I'm trying to shake it away, and it's like, but you know, we got it. And then he's pointing it to my face and doing that. I'm like, that's going to go all over my face. Anyway, that's what, you know, that's the kind of, and it's something that Kylie said yesterday or the day before, the fact that, you know, it's interesting to see what people actually do. I know that it's just simply eating food, but it's nice to kind of get an idea what other people's faiths, traditions are. I think that's very, very interesting. And, you know, we see so much on TV or in films, but going into somebody's house, well, that's when you really get the true picture, as you did last night, you know, all the kind of stuff that you do and carry on, and I really enjoyed it. So that's what we did last. That was my video that I wanted to share with you guys. In terms of what happened to me on a very personal level last week, I was so pleased that my daughter has handed in her dissertation for her 4th year, and I'm just so pleased for her. I think she did a dissertation on something along the lines of mental health in South Asian men or something like that. And
Wow.
I'll read it at some point. You know, it's way too wordy for me because I think I read about 2 paragraphs and I'm like, I don't know what this is. What are you talking about? It's just way too above my head. But you know, I'll read it at some point. So I'm really, really pleased for her. And of course, everybody that's graduating this year, unfortunately, you know, I don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe sometime in the future, not too distant future. But she's really upset because that's the best part of graduating is you know, the actual day you graduate. So she's a bit upset about that. And of course, she's upset about her graduation ball. And so, but you know, these things. At least she's graduating, and we're in very, very fortunate positions compared to a lot of people around the world. So on to my exciting guests. So I've got 2 lovely ladies waiting. I can see them in the corner there. I'm going to start with my friend Blaithin Lynch. And Blaithin is, hi Blaithin.
Hi Nasim, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much for coming along today. I really appreciate this. Blaithin is a friend that I met through actually Facebook, and we actually met, I've got the date here, 18th of March 2018. And how we met was I'd shared an event on Facebook and it must have popped up on her timeline, and she contacted me. And I think that's what I want to really kind of talk about today, is the fact that, you know, 2 random people connecting through social media or online, and I think, and how our relationship has developed, because, you know, she texted me to ask me something about Islam, and then I got back to, and there's been this kind of conversation, and even you know, even talking about the most the weird wonderful things, but it's all about learning about each other's faith. And I think what's been really good is the fact that, you know, we've been very open, very honest, and a little later on I'll share some of the conversations that we've been having, but not the
And I haven't even vetoed these, so I can't remember these conversations. It's been going on for 2 years. It's like, Nasim, please just don't put anything embarrassing on.
No, there's nothing embarrassing at all. So do you want to say hi and, you know, what you do and that kind of idea, and what your kind of viewpoint on all of this?
So my name is Blaithin. I'm Irish, living in Edinburgh. Moved over here to do my master's. And like Nasim was saying, I saw, I think it was a comment that you made on the post about an event that you were promoting. And there was something that just resonated with me, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to add her as a friend, and she may or may not add me as a friend, and if she does, we'll just have conversations. Yeah, and I'm living here now for the last almost 6 years. I work with adults with learning disabilities, and yeah, I think, Nasim, you've heard a lot about the work in the last couple of months. So yeah, and you've been fantastic, real good support as well.
No, it's great because we can support each other, and I know, you know, I've been through things and you've been through things, and it's great just having somebody that online, and I think it's just really, really great to know that you can develop that relationship online. And I think we met once. Iain, do you remember you hosted a concert last year with Saj and not last year, the year before?
Okay.
St Andrew's Day Interfaith concert,
Yes.
And I invited Blaithin to come along, and we had a blast. And she really enjoyed it, and she brought Tizer, her dog. Can we see Tizer there?
Ooh. He's not feeling very well at the moment, so he's out for the count.
So the kind of things that we talked about, I remember I watched a show called The Good Place, and I recommended it to, and I know Iain recommended it to me, and I recommended it to Blaithin, and it's such a fantastic show. And these are the kind of things we talk about, the things that, you know, I'm just going to find some of the conversations that we were talking about. You said something I said something along the lines of, because as you know, my dad passed away a couple of years ago, and we were quite new friends, and you sent me this text, and it meant a lot, and you said, I don't know you, but I'm sending you an absolutely massive hug, and if you would like to meet for a tea, coffee, water, you're more than welcome over to mine or meeting outside in Edinburgh. And I thought that was just so lovely, that just having somebody there, and then we go on to talk about lots of, you know, from her perspective being a Catholic, and comparing what Islam says, and, you know, there's so many similarities in terms of, because I know that you mentioned the fact that, you know, a lot of women wear the hijab or a headdress. Is that right, Blaithin, when they worship? Is that correct?
Yeah, so in the very, very strict Catholic churches, women would have to cover their heads when they go into the church. It's usually it's actually quite a lot like what some Jewish cultures wear. So it's like a handkerchief on your head. my friend actually is married to a very devout Catholic, and she's in her 20s and will wear it, which I thought was a little strange for me because that's not something I was brought up with. But I think, yeah, we've a lot of similarities.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you also mentioned is that what your passion is that you want to learn about all faiths. So, and I know you're not having conversation just with me, but I know you've been speaking to people of other faiths. Yeah, I think you've been speaking to somebody about Judaism.
Yeah, so I think it's something that's been interesting me for the last maybe 20 years. So I grew up very, very, very staunch Catholic. And then I didn't really practice when I went to university. And then I just started researching other faiths and getting to know them and knowing similarities and the differences. And it's opened up these brilliant conversations that I've been able to have with lots of people.
Yeah, I know, that's fantastic. And one of the things that I as I say, I was looking over my, the conversations, and you mentioned about how I pray, and I said to Blaithin, I said, I talk to Allah at all times and say silly things like, God, please give me a massive parking space when I'm trying to park my 7-seater at Western General. Or, you know, God, please help me lose those 2 pounds this week because I'm going to go get weighed at Weight Watchers or something. I need to make that target. You know, I was just talking about how prayers don't always have to be on a bigger thing. You know, it's something that's personal to you. And I think that's very, very important. And the fact that, you know, you can share these and it shows people's faith in a different light, and it's how you approach faith. And so really that was the kind of point that I wanted to make. If anybody wants to add anything, and you know, it's been great talking to Blaithin, and I hope it's been great for you to talk to me as well. But you know, I really enjoy our interfaith discussions that we have, and I think that's what the essence of Edinburgh Interfaith Association and that everybody's associated with is all about. Sort of learning about each other's faith, but also learning about each other's as people, because faith shouldn't always be in it. You know, at the end of the day, we're people, and you know, it's great just to get to know people and understand where they're coming from, and sort of being there for people. I think that's very important, whether that's online, whether that's your neighbour or just somebody that you see at Asda, you know, because you get to recognise the people at the stores that you go and visit, and it's nice just to say hello and just ask them how they're doing. I think that's just a kind of very humane aspect of it that I wanted to kind of portray today.
I think Nasim, there's something that you said to me earlier as well. You had a quote, I think, man is either your brother in religion or your brother in humanity. And when I saw that, the first thing that came into my head was like a Venn diagram, but with a massive circle and little circles inside, and little circles are either connected or not connected. I think that's really important, is that, you know, if we see the little circles as religion, some are connected, some aren't, but we're all within one big circle, which is humanity.
Yeah.
And I think, especially given the time we're in right now, it's so important to get to know people. We all need someone. We're not alone. And it's having those open conversations and understanding and seeing things from other people's perspectives and learning.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Well said, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask Blaithin, what, you know, studying these different religions, has that had an impact on your kind of practice or changed your beliefs in any way?
I think it has. I mean, I've had several God moments, is what I would describe them as, and some of them have been talking to Nasim, and through Nasim I actually got the courage to go down and speak to my neighbour downstairs whose cat terrorises my dog, but they also practice Islam. And Bakar has been really gracious and invited me in for tea, and we've had lovely conversations with herself and her husband and her son. And I think for me, I mean, I follow a Christian faith, and I think given the current circumstances, I found myself going back more so to my Christian faith. And now also with online churches, you can attend church online, which has been fantastic. But I think in the last couple of years, it's made me more hungry to learn about different faiths as well. So I'm always asking questions, to the point where I'll warn someone before I meet them and say, listen, if I ask too many, tell me to take a time out. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Blaithin, for coming along today and sort of being part of the show. I really appreciate that. I know that our conversations will continue. In fact, you've introduced me to a friend of yours who also wants to ask questions. So that'll be another long, living, hopefully, relationship. But thanks very much for coming along today, Blaithin. I really appreciate that. And
thanks, Nasim.
all the best to Kaiser's poor guys sleeping in the corner there.
Yes. Thanks, Nasim. Oh, by the way, you still have to send me your pakora recipe.
Yeah. But, you know, no matter how you try and tell people how to make pakoras. You just have to just get on with it. There's no kind of set method. It's just that's the way Asians cook. That's just the way they cook. There's no set recipe. Just shove everything in, mix it, and then ta-da, that's it, done and dusted. But I'll try my best. Thanks so much. On to my next amazing guest. I just love Neimah. Her whole kind of bubbly personality. She's just amazing. She makes me laugh, and I hope that she can make everybody laugh today on when she's speaking today. So Naimah Safi, thanks very much for coming along today and being part of our show. Naimah works as a nurse, and we're going to talk a bit about her work, how she's coping during Ramadan, and you know, isolation, all these kind of ideas. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Assalamu alaikum, hi, shalom, all of the above. Blessed be.
Yeah. So, are you working today at all?
I am actually working a night shift tonight. Yeah, I'm on for 3 nights.
Okay. So, obviously, you know, well done to all the frontline workers, you know, key workers out there. I'm in a very fortunate position, unlike a lot of people, you know, we're able to work from home, but your job, you have to be out there, and, you know, so well done to you. You know, we praise you so much, and all those that working out there and risking their lives. And, you know, I'd imagine there's a lot of mental pressure as well. And, you know, when you just want to go to a corner and sit and cry, I think that's what I would do. I wouldn't know how to cope. How are you coping in terms of isolation and Ramadan? And
I think having talked to other nurses, like it's so nice that everyone's like, you know, applauding us and thanking us but we're doing our job. And yeah, it's an extreme situation right now, but I think the resounding feeling is we do what we have to do because we love it.
Yeah.
For me, isolation, I stopped crying I think around week 5. Because I'm a big, you know, I every Friday I would look after my sister's kids. We'd meet up with my other nephews and my sisters-in-law. You know, the weekends were spent with family, weeks were spent with family. Ramadan, I would be at my sister's house if I wasn't working. I mean, that's how I spent every Ramadan since she got married, because I'm not married, so I'm on my own. So this Ramadan, I'm literally alone. And that's been harder to get used to. I mean, I live alone anyway, but to be like literally unable to go and see family is very difficult, because so I've become very au fait with the FaceTime and the house party, all these jazz, is not trying to sort of sell them on anyone, but just being able to talk to somebody face to face has made a massive difference. I couldn't imagine having to do this 15 years ago when we didn't have the technology we have now for such clear communication.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's you just have to get through it. It's like anything else. You don't have an option. You have your moments when you feel down and you either turn to faith, in my case, or whatever else in your life, and then you pick yourself up and move forward, because you just can't. There will be an end to this. Like the saying says, this too shall pass. It's just taking time. And the thing is, we all kind of knew it probably won't be properly over till the end of the year. There may be lifting of restrictions, there may be this, that, and the next thing, but really normality, I don't think will start again till next year. And having that in the back of your head, it sucks, but you just work through it.
You just work through it. You know, it's just. And how are your colleagues supporting each other, and, you know, working together?
You know what? I work with the best group of women and men. There are men. There are not many men in my team, but the men that are there are fantastic. I have a habit, because I didn't want to eat the snacks myself. I take snacks in. We sit there, we order food together, we'll take food in together, we talk about our lives together. I mean, we're all going through it. No one person is sitting there living their life normally. So we all talk about the difficulties with their childcare, or just being at home by themselves, or feeling lonely. I'm not the only colleague who has like a family that they can't see, or relatives that they're worried about. So it's just the sense of community, I think, is stronger than it's ever been.
Yeah, I think really that's beautiful to say. Yeah, everybody's really come together, and that's shown globally how everybody's just forgetting what faith they are, where they come from, what colour they are. Everybody's just, you know, gotten in there and just mucked in and helped out. And I think that's supposed to show, you know, that's who we really are as people, truly who we are as people, showing our true colours, that we do care.
Yeah, the thing is, that's the thing with COVID, you know, if you, rather than looking at the negative side, it's literally it has brought out the worst in some people, but it's brought out the best in humanity. I mean, fathers are getting to see how their wives deal with the kids all day, or vice versa. Kids are being with their family more often. People are, I mean, I know my nephews are all in the garden playing. You know, they're not on their iPads. There's only so much technology that they can do before they're bored of it. I now have my neighbour across the way's phone number, so that if she needs anything, I can get it, or if I need anything, her daughter can get it. I mean, when my neighbours found out, because I was really blasé about COVID, I will admit, I thought, it's fine, I'm healthy, I'm fit. If I catch it, it'll probably be like the minor cold symptoms. And then I did catch it, and it wasn't the minor cold symptoms. I was really quite unwell. And it took probably 3 weeks to be better. And even now, if I'm being honest, my stats don't sit as high as they used to. They sit at 95% when I was 97, 98.
Yeah.
But when my neighbours, because I never really told my neighbours, obviously, just I was isolated in the house, and that was it. But when they found out, they're like, if you'd let us know, we would have helped. And it's like, it's so nice, even just to know that in hindsight, that if I had really been desperate, that they would have offered to help.
They would have been there. They would have had your back. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove home one day after a shift on a Thursday, and the clapping was there. And of course, I stepped out my car, and my neighbour started clapping again. And I burst into tears, because it's just such a beautiful feeling. And I'm the only Muslim in my estate, so it's like, so nice to feel like, you know, one of them, as it were, you know. And so, you know, COVID is awful, but there's been a lot of positivity has come out of it for me.
Yeah, definitely. And you said that you have just something I was thinking of there when you mentioned snacks. Do you often open your fast at the hospital you work?
Yeah, if I'm working, my charge nurse has given me night shifts all through Ramadan, so it's easier for me.
Okay.
So what I do is usually, when the fast was earlier, it was easier because I could break my fast and then go pray Maghrib. But now that fast is after 9 o'clock, it's just that wee bit harder. So I break my fast and continue on with my rounds, and then catch up with Maghrib afterwards. Okay. And the thing is, it's gone to the point now the guys don't even blink now. I'm like, I'm off to go pray, and then off I go. And it's like, you know, not a sentence very often heard between nurses.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing, you know, because that in itself is you educating the, you know, the wider audiences, and they're learning about. So what about something, thinking of about racism at work? Have you ever faced any of that, or how?
Of course you do. Yeah. The thing is, I don't believe anyone will go through their life and not feel some form of bias, be it men against women, sexuality, religion, or race. And I've seen it on both sides. I've seen people of color be racist against people who are white, people who are white be racist against people of color. This is one of the reasons why I'm so loud, to put it bluntly, and slightly eccentric, because the best way I think to educate somebody is with a slight tinge of humor. But you need to know your stuff, but you also need to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, very often they'll see, like, I have walked into a shift, and the person who was going to work with me just assumed I was foreign. So when I've opened my mouth and spoken as I speak normally, they were quite shocked. And I'm like, yeah, I am one of you. I'm a human being, and what would it matter? It's like, oh, well, I've never heard one of you speak like that before. Like, what do you mean one of me? We're all human. We all believe.
Yeah.
Often how you get that us versus them, it's like, you couldn't possibly be British because you wear a scarf. I'm like, dude, it's fabric. It is a piece of cloth on my head. And that's one of the other things with COVID, is like the number of people who are now wearing a face mask.
I know.
Like, yeah. It's not so scary now, is it?
We're not shaking hands. We're not shaking hands. We're covering up. I mean,
we're washing our hands more often. Everyone's following the single path at the moment.
Whether they like it or not, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, humor is, I think, the best medicine to any form of aggression. I mean, you're going to remember somebody who makes you laugh more than somebody who's yelled at you. And with more of a positive outlook, you're going to learn something.
I think, Neimah, we're all going to remember you today, certainly. You brought
a resounding problem.
You brought some humour, but you've also really shown some of the great things that are going on at the moment, and it's great to hear the solidarity that's coming together. Of course, as time runs away from us, I think we now have to
thank you,
next segment. It was wonderful to hear that. In the next part of the show, Joe is going to be joined by the most inspirational person, Olivia Giles, who will share with us the events that changed her life and led to the founding of the 500 Miles charity that continues to change the lives of many people today in Malawi, Zambia, and Zanzibar. So over to you, Joe. We look forward to hearing this.
Thank you, Iain. I am absolutely delighted to be joined today by my special guest, Dr. Olivia Giles. I first heard Olivia speak many years ago for the Edinburgh lectures, and I was absolutely mesmerized by her life story, because in 2002, a dramatic change happened in her life, and instead of wringing her hands, she rolled up her sleeves and she founded a very well-respected charity called 500 Miles, which provides training and it provides equipment for people in Africa who have lost limbs or have trouble with walking, etc. Their website is www.500, the numbers 500miles.co.uk. She trained as a lawyer, and she now is working with this charity as its leader, 500 Miles. Would you please join me in welcoming Dr. Olivia Giles? Olivia, could you tell us, please, you've had a long and distinguished career. Tell me about your diagnosis and treatment and how it impacted your life, please.
Well, I was just getting on with a very ordinary legal career. I was working all the hours, and I reckon I would probably have retired as a lawyer age 60 or 65. So contracting meningitis was very sudden. It was the blood poisoning form, meningococcal septicaemia. I was at work on a normal, hardworking Thursday afternoon, and I began to feel a bit fluish. I thought for all the world it was just a case of flu, but within just 24 hours I was unconscious, in intensive care and on life support. And I remained in a medical coma for 4 weeks while the doctors tried to save my life. But the meningococcal bacteria in my bloodstream had already done its worst, and my hands and my feet had become gangrenous. And the gangrene was slowly creeping up my limbs, right over my elbows and over my knees. And so my hands and feet had to be amputated to save my life. I was really fortunate that my knees and my elbows were saved with very extensive skin grafting, with skin cut from all over the rest of my body. And I was brought round 4 weeks later, very weak and ill from the effects of the disease and all the surgery, to discover that I had no hands and feet. So it was a very sudden change in my life. And I had basically a 9-month rehabilitation as I reclaimed my independence, learned to walk, learned how to live in a different way all over again. I did quite a lot of fundraising, I suppose, talking about the risks of meningitis for a few years after that. But then I just started to become aware that in many places in the world where there are no limb fitting centres, or not enough of them, my happy outcome just wouldn't have happened, just because the services just aren't available. So I gradually decided that that was really what I had to do, was to try and just do something somewhere to try and level the playing field. And I started in Malawi and Zambia, just going on a visit to see what I could do. And very quickly it became apparent that this was the right thing and that I should be making inroads. Should I go on?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So in Malawi, I discovered that there was basically no service at all in central and northern regions. So the obvious thing to do was to try and create centres. But right from the beginning, I thought that this kind of work should be about enabling and sustainability. So the plan was always to build centres, build an in-country workforce, incubate the centres, and hand them over. So we built the first centre in Malawi, in Lilongwe, the capital, in 2008. It didn't open until 2009. And the second one went up over the course of 2012 in the north. And between them, they serve central and northern regions in Malawi. All of our staff now are Malawian. apart from the Australian managers in the north. And we deliver the prosthetic and orthotic service as part of the National Health Service of Malawi. So we're completely integrated, and the plan is, as we build up the sustainability, to hand over the fiscal and administrative control of the 2 centres to the Malawi government, so that Malawi will basically take them on and run them themselves. So I've gone on talking about prosthetics and orthotics. Prosthetics are the devices that replace body parts which are missing. I wear 2 prosthetic legs myself. Orthosis, on the other hand, are devices like splints or braces that support body parts which are physically there, but which are weak or don't function properly, like braces and splints. And in fact, that's the majority of the devices that we supply are actually enabling splints, particularly for children with cerebral palsy. So we've been going for nearly 12 years now, and we have a register of over 8,500 patients in Malawi that registered with us and depend on us. And since we issued our first device in March 2009, we've issued over 14,500 devices. Yeah. So it's quite a substantial concern now, and we are definitely at the stage of talking about handing over the first clinic, which will actually be the one in the north. We're aiming to do that in July 2021. With ongoing support.
You've given me goosebumps hearing that number 14,000 and the goal of 2021, because we know this has been a difficult year for the world. And 2021, we hope and pray, some of us, that it will be better. I was wondering, speaking of prayer, what is the role of faith and spirituality in terms of healing and helping, both in your own experience as well as in the people that you serve in Malawi?
Oh, well, that's interesting. I don't have a particularly strong faith myself, but where I think spirituality comes into this for me is that right from the very beginning, from the minute that it really first hit me that this is probably what I needed to be doing, it just seemed to have my name on it, was a really strong sense that this is the right thing to do. I from the very beginning, I felt as if I had a real wind at my back, and that it was obvious which doors I should be going through because they were just flying open. Everything just seemed to fall into place uncannily, easily. And both Malawi and Zambia are very religious countries. The predominant religion in the north of Malawi is Christianity, and the south is Muslim. But faith is a big part of life there, and it's been very interesting for me to see how 500 miles has been received, and basically people quite openly thank God for 500 miles, and mothers who come and bring their children, that's what they do. They thank whichever God it is for the device for 500 miles.
Well, speaking of gods, I'm a big fan of the Proclaimers, and I know that's where you've taken the name 500 Miles. Tell us how that happened and about your relationship and the support you've received from Craig and Charlie.
The name came about from trying to think about what we could call the charity that wouldn't be prosthetics and orthotics for Africa, to try something that was Scottish,
very good.
And without just spelling it out. And it's worked that way because people always ask why 500 miles, and then you could say because I would walk 500 miles. So in 2004 I had a fundraiser for meningitis, and I managed to get in touch with Craig and Charlie to ask if they would play a concert, and they did. Wow. And so when we decided on that name, 500 Miles, for the charity, and I was doing my first fundraiser for it, well, first of all, I asked Craig and Charlie if it was all right to call the charity that, and they were very happy. And then we had a fundraiser called Miles for Smiles in 2009, and they came and played at a ball for that. I've also heard that their children, when they've been in school and had to pick a charity to do their project on, that 2 of the children have actually picked 500 miles to do their project on. I'm hoping that before we have completely handed over to Malawi, that they will play another concert for us.
Fantastic. And as you probably know, our dear viewers, we hope will want to support this wonderful charity at www.500, that's the number 500miles.co.uk, to help them reach this milestone in 2021. I just want to close with one final question. You've had your own struggles and challenges, and now we're struggling with the global COVID 2019 pandemic. From what you've experienced and what you've learned, Olivia, what advice do you have for our audience in terms of, as you did, finding their own internal spirituality to carry them through this unprecedented time?
I think the thing that I can apply to both is just taking one day at a time. Breaking it down. If it's too big, you just break it down to the bite-sized bit that you can cope with now, right now. That really helped me through my rehabilitation, and it helps now. And I think also the serenity prayer has really got it all sewn up. Accepting what you can't change, not trying to fight with it or argue with it, but also having the courage to face up to changing the things that you can.
Well, that's a wonderful way to end this interview, but I want to remind our viewers that on Thursday at 6 p.m. there will be a longer interview with Olivia, and it'll be playing regularly on the Edinburgh Interfaith homepage and on Facebook and on YouTube. So tune in and you'll see the longer interview with Olivia. But for now, may I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming into my life 7-8 years ago and continuing to inspire all of us today. Thank you very much, and keep the faith.
I think that was such an inspiration. You're such an inspiration to everyone, Olivia. I think people then today never give up hope, and there's so much that we can achieve. Moving to the final part of today's show, which is the musical part. This week I had the chance to catch up with Melvin Brown, who is often referred to as the last of the great song and dance men. And I have to confess, I had so much fun speaking to Melvin from his home in Texas, where he talked about his gospel roots, stories of working with some of the greats in the music industry, to his Tap Into Health program. And again, remember, you can watch that full video, the full video of that interview on Thursday on our Facebook and on our YouTube channel from just after 6 p.m. But I think we're going to just see a short part, 4 minutes, from that video now.
I just think that, okay, whatever show I'm doing or whatever I'm doing, you know, I got to do something that feels good to me, that I'm going to have fun with, you know, because I realized a long time ago, if it's fun for me, you know, then it's going to be fun for the people looking, you know. Because, you know, fun is contagious, just like you smile is contagious, you know, laugh is contagious. Yeah. You know, you see somebody laugh and other people look at them, they start laughing too, they don't even know why, but you say, can anybody dance? And I thought, everybody dances, so I raised my hand. And her name was Miss Wilson. She said, Melvin, come and dance for us. So I went in, I did a little dance. Back then there was a dance called the Huckabuck. Right, and it's kind of like that James Brown move that he does. Wow. And I did a little dance and everybody clapped and yelled, you know. And from that point on, I knew exactly where I was going with my life. I was raised in church, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I come from a family of 12 children.
Wow, 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 wow.
Well, there was 14 of us in the house, and we had one toilet, and people asked me, how'd you learn to tap dance? I said, well, you got 14 people in the house and one toilet, you learn to tap dance. At that age, I loved the music.
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember there's one guy who had this amazing voice, and, you know, preacher would do the sermon, and right at the end of the sermon, he just come out of nowhere with this song, and it was just so moving that everybody right away was into it, and of course I was happy at this point. I could stay awake because the music was happening, you know. And I put this system together because I thought, you know, if people are healthy, they're happy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, well, and if they're happy, they're willing to get to healthy, you know. And that's what my whole system is about, helping people to be happy, healthy, loving, wealthy, and wise. That's my whole system. Thanksgiving and these days, I would go out. I would usually fast on these holidays because I thought, you know, I need to have time to let my system and my mind recoup, you know.
Interesting.
So I would go out and I see these homeless people, and I thought, you know, if instead of fasting, why don't I take the food that I would be eating and I could help these people and help myself at the same time. My idea was if everybody does a little bit towards the situation of helping the homeless people, the elderly people, if everybody does a little bit, the problem gets done, you know. And there's always somebody around that's in worse condition than you are.
Yeah.
And if you go and do something for these people, you would feel better, they would feel better, so everything comes up, you know. I was always asking myself, you know, even from a young age, you know, what would Jesus do, you know, when I'm dealing with a situation, you know. Jesus was kind of like my mentor, you know. Not saying that I made it all to all those great places that, you know, to be a saint like that, but I thought it was a good place, you know, to think, okay, I looked around, okay, who can I find that I can think that when I'm in one of these fixes or something, how to deal with it. And I came up with Jesus, and I thought, okay, it works for me. When you sing or you dance or you laugh, you know, hey, you don't feel so down about no matter what the situation is. And of course, my philosophy on life is that, you know, there's a bad side to everything, but there's also a good side to everything, you know.
So you see that whole interview on Thursday. He's just such an incredible guy. The whole laugh, as you'll see, just has that infectious for life, really. And you know, he tells stories from when he was performing from age 5, and he's worked with people like James Brown. He was dancing and performing with James Brown, to telling me stories of a young group called the Commodores who supported him in one of their early gigs, Lionel Ritchie and the Commodores. So it's quite an interview. So do try and tune in on Thursday at 6 o'clock and learn more. So just before we conclude for today, I wonder if some of our co-hosts might want to share some reflections from today and what really has stuck out for them. Nasim?
I think there's a central theme today, Iain and Nasim, about freedom. The freedom to be yourself, as Neimah and our Irish friend have talked about today, to reach out to other people. The courage to take that freedom and embrace it. And then, of course, the freedom that Olivia has given 14,000 people with the use of prosthetics and orthotics in Africa. And of course, that reminds me of my own faith, Iain, because in Judaism, every spring we celebrate a ritual called Passover, which commemorates the exodus of the Jews from slavery in Egypt. And I would just hope that as a result of these wonderful discussions today, all of us are taking steps out of the slavery of the sadness and depression of the COVID virus by embracing the serenity prayer that Olivia referenced in her interview, knowing when we have the courage to change the things we can and the wisdom to know the difference. How about you, Nasim?
Oh, I can't possibly beat that, Joe. You've said that so well. And one thing that really, I mean, it was lovely talking to Neimah and to Blaithin and obviously to Olivia as well. I think what really, and what was apparent to me was the range of risks and their backgrounds, and yet we all have a kind of common interest. I think that came across very clearly. But I loved what Olivia said about one day at a time, and I think that's a message that I'm taking home today. Even though I'm already at home, but that's what I'm, that really kind of felt very appropriate. It is one day at a time, and not just during the COVID crisis, but I think out with that as well. That's the way we have to live time. Appreciate what we have, and look forward to better times. But and that's life.
I agree.
I think as well, one of the big things that stood out for me from listening to everyone is that regardless of our backgrounds and where we come from and what we've been through, we're all going through the same thing right now. And not to sound too High School Musical-ish, but we're all in it together. And and I think that's the most important thing, is that we just lift each other up, and we're just there for each other regardless of anything.
Definitely.
Very true.
I think that's a beautiful way to end. I'd just like to thank our very special guests today. And remember to tune in to our Edinburgh Interfaith Facebook or our YouTube channel on Thursday from 6 p.m. and you can watch those extended interviews with Olivia and Melvin Brown. And remember to like our Facebook page and just subscribe to the YouTube channel, where you'll get more of those wonderful videos, and follow us on Twitter at Edinburgh at Interfaith. And all it remains for me to say is have a great week and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.